Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is September the 11th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. We are the sovereign living justices in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. I am Sovereign Living Justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light to Jury Bay, and both are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original, indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We are the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are executing the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original, indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient, Article 3 living courts of all dimensions. We are the sovereign fiduciaries, receivers, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, and beneficiaries for all actions on land, air, sea, space, and all other dimensions. We are peace. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension. We hereby we approve the previously issued state and federal creditors' bill for possession against all judgment debtors and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc pro tunc. Islam. So the first thing that I would like for us to do today, and I say I would like for us to do because this is not necessarily something on our regular agendas as the Congress and the Assembly here, but there has been in the previous, and this came over from colonialism. There's been prevalent in our nation previously a feeling or an energy that was placed upon us, and it wasn't placed upon us. We actually had to consent to this feeling of lack, of doing without, L-A-C-K, lack. And so we are focusing our energy on abundance because we cannot, and I can't say we cannot because we can do whatever we want to do. It is suggested that we not go into this period of this era and this eternity of abundance still carrying some of that lack energy, because it will only, it does not serve us well. And we're letting go of all energies that no longer serve us. And so we're focusing our energy on abundance and knowing that we already have all that we need. We already have it. It's just a matter of speaking it, claiming it, stating it, but it's already here. And so I would like for us to take just a moment and come together in the spirit realm and manifest it in this realm to where we bind and abolish and cast away into outer darkness the spirit of lack. So if we could take about 30 seconds, because it only takes us a nanosecond to do it because we're so powerful. But let's take about 30 seconds to focus our energy on binding and casting away the spirit of lack, because that spirit will have us looking at, in the past, let me put it that way. In the past, it had us looking at things instead of seeking first the empire. And it was only when we started seeking the empire that those things, we started seeing the things that we know that we want. And it's the things that we can have, the things that are already ours. So I'm going to set my timer for 30 seconds. And let's just put our energies together. If everyone would just take a moment, take a deep breath, take 3 deep breaths, because it's a spell. And there is no such thing as a shortage. Indeed, there's no lack. I recently heard one of the modern Europeans, going by the name of Elon Musk, say that he found out recently that instead of overpopulation, he said that there's underpopulation, and that there's more than enough for everybody, and that there's more than enough land and all of that. So he's starting to see what we've always known about this land and about us and about the earth, and what was stated, what he said. And we're not validating him that way because he doesn't have the authority to speak. But what he said, not what he stated, but what he said was that if you put everyone on earth together, shoulder to shoulder, they would all fit in the state of Texas. In Texas. And no one wants to live shoulder to shoulder with everyone on earth. We don't want to do that, not in this dimension, because that's not comfortable. And that includes everybody from Asia, everybody from Africa, everybody from everywhere on earth. If we all stood shoulder to shoulder, everyone would fit at Texas. So he had an aha moment. So there is no lack, none. In fact, we have so much more, and that's why we have to stand the way that we're standing, and be ourselves, because there's so much. We don't ever have to worry. We don't ever have to go back and forth over things, because there's so much. There's so much. And that's why we don't hesitate to put everything out there on the public record. How to make, gold from iron ore, the processes for getting, claiming things and properly getting the things that belong to us, because there's so much. We don't have to worry about domiciles and conveyances and all that. There's way more than we could ever use in one dimension or one lifetime. So I want us to focus our energy just for a minute, just for 30 seconds, on all of us thinking the same thought of there is more than enough for us, and bring that into yourself. There is more than enough for me, and all nations shall call you blessed, because there's so much. There's so much. There's no lack. There's so much. So let the statement be, there's so much. There's far more abundance for me right now, and we have everything we need. So I'll go ahead. Yes, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, because the men that are waiting to give into our bosoms, they've been waiting for a while, and all we had to do was keep doing what we're doing. So let's take 30 seconds, and the thought that we repeat in our minds and in our consciousness so that we get it into our spirit is there is more than enough for all of us, and we control it all. There's more than enough for all of us, and we control it all. There's more than enough for all of us, and we control it all. So let's just take 30 seconds of silence and just focus on that one statement right there, conjunctive statement, because there's two parts to it. There's more than enough, and we control it all. Mm. Islam. Islam. We went a little over 30 seconds, but there's more than enough for all of us, and we control it all. We control every bit of it. Empress Rama, I have the word thrive in my notes here. So we're definitely connected. So um, I will say this about those who are coming, because there are millions of Moors who are coming. They haven't awakened yet, but they're on their way. And my greatest joy, my greatest joy is when another Moor wakes up and accepts their inherited entitlement as God. Now, our titles of nobility are Bay, El, Al, Ali, and Day. We know that. There is an entitlement that comes with that as the gods at earth. And so my greatest joy is each, even if there's only one more who gets it and who realizes that they're God from the work that we're doing, that would have been plenty. But we've had an abundance there also. And so that is the focus, the primary number one focus of everything that we do is that yet another more wakes up and accepts their inherited entitlement as God on this earth, at earth. Yes, yes. The abundance is everywhere. The rest of the earth, anything that they have was here first, and then we actually had to take it over there. And that's actually what the consuls did, is they would take plants from here and take them to other lands and plant them. So we have more than enough here. We just need to go ahead and stand, because the more than enough and the abundance, the only way that the abundance is accessed is by us being ourselves. It cannot be accessed, as you can see, by foreign, anyone who is not us. It has to come through the Moors. And we have to access it first so that we can tribute it to others. So with that being said, I have one other, I've been thinking about some of the things that we've been seeing in the media. And a question came to mind. What would happen? Because we're actually celebrating right now today our third day of our national fast. Let me just congratulate all the Moors who fasted these 3 days, the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And no matter how you fasted, we are one. Our fast was water only for these 3 days. And others fasted from sun up to sundown. Others fasted from, negative energy. Others fasted from sugar or meat or, or speaking or anything. Now, I would like to propose that we enter another era of fasting, of our fasting, because we're already in our era of fasting, and fasting just makes us better, stronger, faster, etc. But what would happen if we all, just for 1 week, cut off anything that's being stated by anyone who is not speaking Moorish science? And we know what Moorish science is. There are some Moors who are semi-awake. They don't say they're Moors, but they're putting out some beautiful erudition because they're activated also. And what would happen if we only the whole time, and there are some Moors who do this, and you can tell in their energy, because when the foreigners say something, it doesn't even faze them. They already know that it's theater and it's acting, and that's nothing to even be concerned about. And that's actually how we have to be in our daily application of more science, because fake courts, fake policy enforcers, and all that, when they're speaking, they're not talking to us. They're speaking to a corpse, a hybrid corpse, and they were speaking to a hybrid corpse. They're out of here now. They're out of here. So I can't even speak them back in. They're out. And we state that for the public record. But what would happen if, when we go onto YouTube or turn on the television, for those who still have a television and that they watch? Most of us don't. We most of the time go on to the internet. But what would happen if we took 1 week and said we're not going to hear anything from anyone who doesn't look like us or who's not putting more science out there? And others can't put more science out there. They can put some version of it out there. They can put a subjective subject, from a subject perspective, they can put something out there. And I'm not saying don't listen don't listen to any foreign hybrids or corporates. Don't listen to corporates at all. I am saying don't listen to corporates. I'm saying that. But don't listen. I'm not saying don't listen to foreign modern Europeans. But what I am saying is what would happen if we fasted every now and then from them. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that in just a moment. It's not that we don't love them. It's not that we don't love the subjects. And even in the Declaration of Independence, it says that the gods, it infers that that we're only getting the opinions of mankind. Okay, we are only getting the opinions of mankind. What would happen if we took 1 week or 2 weeks or even 30 days to not hear any more of those opinions, but just operate from our own within as a nation together and us dealing with each other? What would happen if we did that for 30 days straight? Where would we be? What would we do? How far up would we ascend? And here's why I'm stating that. Yes, it will negate all distractions and untruths, yes, and the colorability and all of that will be gone. And Empress Rama, I believe you're the one who said that you fasted 3 days just from speaking. Is that this stemmed from that, because it was just beautiful and brilliant. the reason I'm saying shut off all foreign voices, including the subjects who, but shut all of that off for whatever time you deem it necessary, is because of where we are in our grand rising. Where we are in our grand rising is this. If you did take a look at the theatrical acting speech that the former custodian previously doing business as Joe Biden did on September 1st, that I'll just say that they posted it up there on September 1st. I won't say he spoke it on September 1st because he didn't. It's all acting, and that's been long over. But if you looked at where the background turned red and there were two Marines back there, and the Marine on the right, his hands were illuminated and all of that. And he was, and in this video, he was wearing a gray tie. Those who are familiar with Civil War history know that in the Civil War there was the blue and the gray. And the gray was the Confederates, which is we were the Federation. Okay, and in acting out a civil war, this is what all of that meant, what that speech meant, and that's why in the speech, the former actor was talking about he took straight aim at the other hybrids who were doing business as quote unquote Trumpers, Donald Trumpers, etc. Okay. So what that really was, what that speech really was, and it's clear to me now, even more so what it really was, because I mentioned the Civil War previously, but that was them acting out a declaration of civil war on the quote unquote Trumpers. And it's convoluted because they're claiming to be the Republic, and the Trumpers are claiming to be the Republic too, but it's convoluted in their acting and their theater. So now, why am I saying what I'm saying about shut the noise off from them? This is why I'm saying that, because in the Biblios Heliotext, it spoke about how in the last days there was going to be wars and rumors of wars and all of that. Well, while they're acting out all of this, they're going to be giving the appearance of fighting over our vast estate. Fighting over it. And for those who do not know that it's just acting, for the Moors who may not know that yet, they may try and get involved. But they gave you a hint when they prosecuted the Moors, the sleeping Moors who ran to quote unquote fake DC on January 6th of 2021. They prosecuted them and threw them in jail first. Those were the first ones in jail in the acting theater, because we are not to get involved in any of that back and forth, because the estate is already ours. What is all of that for? It is a distraction, okay, to keep as many who will choose to be distracted while we take the land. See, we've put everything in place. We have banking in place. We have courts in place. We have what else? We have everything in place. Everything in place. We have our government, our Congress in place. We have everything in place. And so it was only when we got all of these things in place that the former custodian previously doing business as Queen could leave publicly leave. And that's a signal to them, to start the fight. Mom, to them, this is the foreign hybrids and modern Europeans saying this. And I won't even say that. I'll say it's the foreigners who participate in all that theater. Those foreigners who participate in that theater are saying that their mother is gone and they're going to cut up and clown and act crazy and war and fight. But what's really happening, Morris, is they're leaving. And this is their last theatrical act on the way out the door. You know how when we were asleep, we used to watch TV, and there would be people that were in a domicile or in a house, rather, arguing. And while they're arguing, movers come and move the furniture out, and they're still there arguing. They don't see the people moving the furniture out. And then the people start edging them out the house and out onto the street. And they're still arguing, and they're so busy arguing that they don't realize that they've been moved out of the way, and all of their little bags and stuff is out on the curb, and somebody else, the owner of the house, is in the house. That's what's happening now. Is they're gonna do a lot of theater, and it's gonna be and it's gonna look like a war, Morris. It's gonna look like that. We are not to get involved. Our focus has to be on the nation and these processes of gaining the domiciles and the things that belong to us rightfully, and doing so, governing properly, the way that we have been. Yes, continuity of government is in place. Justice Jay, now I'm so glad you can see, and most of us can see. Most of us, and when I say most of us, there'll be some new Moors who may not see that yet. That's why we had to have our own money, our own everything, and even the fiduciary money is money that the subjects can use who are not a part of that theater. But we had to set something in place for everyone. And then when we did that, the former custodian's head was going to go. And fortunately, we already accepted the resignation because we put the resignation in place. And then what did we do? We said, okay, we accept the resignation, and we got it from here because everything is in place. And when we gave that signal, then she was going to exit and watch the next few exits. Okay. So if your eyes are on what they're doing, you're going to want to get caught up in that stuff. And it's going to bother you because they're going back into that period of darkness. See, we've emerged from darkness. You know, they call it the Dark Ages. And we've emerged from darkness. But the corpses have to go back into darkness. And this is their way of doing that. They're imploding. They've already imploded. And they're just going to continue acting that out while they exit stage right, or stage left, rather. And if you pay attention to all of that and you start looking at the news and them talking about, yeah, they bombed this and they did that and they did this and that. No, they're not doing any of that. They're not doing any of that. They're not doing any of that. Not on our land, they're not. They're doing it at the United States Corporation Company, which they think has an actual map, when it doesn't. It's not land. So if they say, in the state of Illinois, they put the mask mandates back, and they said anybody on the streets who doesn't have a mask on, you going to jail. Well, they're talking about the state of Illinois. They're not talking about us. Justice Morpheus, yes. Watch the movie Wag the Dog. Watch that movie, Wag the Dog. And all we're doing is we're above that. And this is what we have done, Moors, together, all of us. What we did was we activated that which has always been ours. And we built that bridge and the zeppelins and apparatus that our prophet talked about. Prophet Noble Drew Ali talked about how when the trouble comes, that the Moors are going to have zeppelins and apparatus that's going to lift them high above the trouble. And while they're up there above the trouble, they're going to have an awesome, amazing time. And he didn't say awesome, amazing, but he did say we will be lifted above the trouble when the trouble comes, so we don't have to worry about the trouble. So our responsibility to our heirs and to our nation from this point forward, and has always been, is to remain peaceful, stay out of the faces of them, the ones that's doing all of that. Stay away from all of that stuff because it's theater. And any Moors that find themselves in there, get out as quickly as possible. That's just from me to you. Get out. Don't be in their business, because that ain't got nothing to do with us. That's them seeing themselves out. And, if you want to see some, I'm not going to speak that into existence, but just let's mind our nation. Okay. Because and part of minding our nation is going to be shutting that noise off that they're going to start putting out. The one that was previously doing business as Biden, that was a war cry right there. And anyone answering that war cry is in for a war. Well, not for us. We don't answer the war cry because, first of all, they can't even see us in capitis diminutio nolo and in our proper person. We have that in writing from them that they cannot see us in propria persona sui juris. That we actually have to get down on their level and go back into a state of sleep to even deal with them. So it's going to be good as they exit for us to limit, so just seriously limit the amount of energy that we are seeing from them. Don't consume too much of that. Or else, you will really think that on our land, on our peaceful, beautiful, abundant land, that there's some war going on when there isn't. There is not. And let me say this about that too, Moors. We have prepared for this time. We've prepared for this time. What does that mean? That means that we're starting to reap the harvest of our preparation. We can see that just in Moors not being taken so randomly and seemingly randomly. We're seeing it slowing down where that, and then even with the Moors that were taken, once they complete their test, they come out of there. They don't stay in there 15 and 20 years. They come on out, even regardless of what they were facing, because they're just demonstrating, and we see that. This is the great transition and the great transfer. So I want to put us all on notice, and I'm putting myself on notice again too. We have prepared and are prepared. And Allah and our ancestors will not fail us, because we are Allah and we are our ancestors manifested in the flesh. We have to know that. We have to know that getting to this part that we're at right now. And again, we're not at war, so the war doesn't have anything to do with us. Our ancestors will not fail us because we're our ancestors' return. And no matter what's going on around you, the theater that's going on, stay focused on your nation. Stay focused on this nation. Stay focused on this nation. No matter what comes, no matter what goes, Allah and our ancestors will continue to prosper us. And the reason that is so important that we stay focused on the nation is because this is the time that prosperity is manifesting. This is what all of that theater is about. is so that those ones that were here, that were previously here thinking that they were going to usurp, that they're distracted with that while we take back and actually attend and be about our mother's business on the land. By the time the breakfast fight is over, because that's really all that's going to be, is a breakfast fight. And I will say this, the actors are good actors. That's why I'm saying turn them off as often as you can. Because by the time the breakfast fight is over beneath us, because that's where it's going to happen, beneath us, we each will have so many testaments to tell about how we built new domiciles, about how we gained new things, about how we went to new places, about how we it's just going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be absolutely amazing. All of this preparation and the testing that we have gone through is for this time now. We cannot be distracted by what's going on beneath us. And when I say beneath, I mean in terms of the spirit realm. That's coming from a lower frequency. And that is what we told them to do so that folks won't get persons won't get restless and start trying to claim things and think that their fight is not with us. The estate belongs to us. It always has, and they know that. And this is their way of moving on, those who are a part of that theatrical piece. Now, for those who have hybrids in your family, maybe you've married a hybrid or whatever, you are the head. So that is their protection comes from you. Is that something to rub in their faces? No. Is that something to use to control them in a manner that is not just and honorable? No, that's not what that's for. That's not why that information is given. This information is given so that you know that you're the head. You're not the tail. Because in the previous era, sometimes, and I'm not saying all, I'm just saying occasionally Moors got with modern Europeans because they felt like there was some advantage there. And in the past era, there may have been. In this era, their protection comes through you. So, if that's a choice that you made, then be honorable about your choice. Okay? And when you honor your choice, everyone else will honor your choice too. Honor your choice. Your choice is what we honor. Your sovereignty is what we honor. Okay? So, by the time this breakfast fight is all said and done, Moors, this is the time. This is our time. This is our time. And this is where we put into activation all that we were all that we were remembering, and all that we have, the protocols and the banking and all of that we put in place. This is the time where we activate all of that. So, for those who have modern Europeans in your family, or for the Moors who have sleeping Moors, and let's say you've procreated with a sleeping Moor, or procreated with with someone who's not awake yet, or procreated with a modern European, you actually are the magistrate over your subjects. And sleeping Moors who behave like subjects, we have to help them to wake up as soon as possible. But as long as they claim that status, then we have to protect them by putting them in our trust, and and moving forward, until they wake up. We have to. We as a nation have already done that for all Moors. And that's why we kept saying throughout our demonstrations that this is for all Moors. Sleeping or not, it's for all Moors. Okay. Now, a couple of other things that I want to bring forth. The video that we did with regard to the former custodian previously doing business as, or not doing business as, she was in our office of Queen, because that's our office. And she was a custodian formerly there. And we did a video speaking about that and, sending her on her way peacefully, because that is what nations do. When we give our subjects, we send them on, we say, and we've been talking about this forever, well done, our good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. So that's what that video was about. Well done, our good and faithful servant. So also in that video, there were some things that were stated that I wanted to bring forth. One or two things really quickly. With regard to the matriarchal energy and the patriarchal energy. Now, each more is a portal for both energies, patriarchal and matriarchal. We have them both, because we as the matriarchs gave our sons that energy. All of our sons, and this is all males, all of our sons, and even the foreigners, all of the sons are female in the womb first. And that's basic science. Everyone knows that. And then we, the matriarchs, we say, okay, we flip a switch genetically, and we say, okay, you will be a son because we want a son. Or you will be a daughter because we want a daughter. And so that patriarchal energy, the Moors at UK, and that's all Moors at UK, are already, those who are awake are governing already. They're the king already. They're the emperors and the kings already. And the Moors that are still asleep will be the king energy and emperor energy when they wake up. Just like here, all of the matriarchs, we are all God here. And our sons are God here too, because they come from us. They get their godness from mother. Okay, so those are the things that I wanted to kind of bring forth with regard to that. Also, I wanted to bring something forth here about the red. The red, there in the video that, well, let's not even talk about them anymore. Let's talk about us. In the Holy Quran, chapter 29, in the matriarchal Holy Quran, because matriarchs, we are actually literally writing the Holy Quran for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science. We are actually writing that right now. That is the half that our prophet said he could not tell. He said, if I told you the half, many of you would go back to sleep. Well, he didn't tell the matriarchal half, our half. But mother can speak for mother. And that's all mothers, all matriarchs here at America, all matriarchs earthwide, actually, all matriarchs earthwide. And Morris, please, whenever I say only at America, please correct me, because America is everywhere. The matriarchs at UK territory are just as powerful and equally as sovereign as we are, and anywhere else, because we all are one God. So, but sometimes because of when I first woke up, that was what the focus was here, North America. Earthland, yes, indeed, Islam. I wanted to focus on, bring your attention to the word red, R-E-D, and what that means. This is according to Black's Law Dictionary. Red is spelled different ways. It's spelled R-E-D. It's also spelled R-A-E-D. It's also spelled R-E-D-E. And it means advice or counsel. And then that's as a noun. As a noun, it means advice or counsel. As a verb or in its most hypothecated thing, it's a color. Okay. Red also means, and this is as an adjective. Red as an adjective, a communist radical, which that's none of us. Not in the sense of corporate things. It says the term contemplates a follower. This is from Black's Law, and we correct Black's Law as well because it was not written by us, so we correct it when we see it. It says the term contemplates. That means it doesn't mean this. It just contemplates a follower of the red flag of the Russian Revolution, and we know that our flag is red. A name of opprobrium sometimes given to those with a liberal political outlook, especially those advocating social, political, or economic reform. We are absolutely creating, not reforming, but we're creating everything that has to do with us, and everything that has to do with the earth, everything that has to do with the land. And then I also put here, think about the word read, which is also pronounced red as well, which is what we do. We read, and once we have read it, then we have read it. And those words all mean the same thing: advice, counsel, etc. So when we read, this is what's happening. We are taking in information, and then we are putting it through our sovereign filter and advising and counseling ourselves from the spirit realm into this dimension, because we are portals for all of that. And then something that I found really on another note, on the final note before we get into our subject matter, we were talking about the resignation letters before we got to the recording. We had the meeting before the meeting. And we were talking about the resignation letters that have gone out and the number of CEOs that have, been going ahead and doing as command. And let me not call them CEOs, because they're not CEOs. We're the CEOs, which is why they were removed. But the number of former custodians previously in the office of CEO, many of them saw those resignation letters coming, the removal letters coming. They saw it coming and they stepped out of the way beforehand because they didn't want to be in the way when we came. Okay. If you look back at the number, and at some point we will put out yet another list, because about 2 years ago we put out a list of former custodians previously in the office of CEO who, when we started doing liens, they started, quote unquote, jumping ship. Well, now it is former custodians previously in the office of CEO who are, it's either, remove yourself, or the quote unquote patriots will remove you, but they don't have the authority to remove anybody either. They're just doing what we say. So I saw a little something that I actually had to chuckle at it when I saw it, because I know what it is. But this came up. I saw this in it was a story that came up on MSN, I believe it was, on my computer. And so the people here are those quote unquote supposed Kremlin officials, when they're really just custodians, previous custodians in the office of Kremlin officials. They're saying to this one here to leave the post. They're saying, go ahead and just get out of the way, because the Moors are here. And I found that to be a little bit funny. So, because they are finding all types of ways to get out of the way. And they're putting all types of stories out there as they leave, like, oh, this one jumped out of a building, this one, and I'm not saying that those things aren't happening for them in their theater, but I am saying that it's some of it, they're very creative when it comes to thinking of ways to get out of the way. So with that being said, I actually want to open. I want to open the table, so that I meant to open it before. And you can unmute yourself at any time. Are there any questions or comments about any of the things that we have stated thus far?
Islam?
Empress Shasha first, and then Empress Cynthia. Empress Shasha.
Thank you. A quick question. Do you have something on the screen? Because I'm not seeing anything on. I'm seeing just the gray. So I just want
Okay. Let's see.
It says light to Taj's screen, but I'm just seeing the gray.
Are you all seeing the article? It's a photo.
I can see it.
Yeah, I see Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
I can see it. You can see, so it's me then somehow.
Yeah.
If I go out and come back, if it's still, are you okay?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to suggest that, Empress. If you go out and come back in, then it should.
All right.
Connect.
Thank you.
Islam.
And usually when I was using my cell phone, the cell phone wouldn't refresh fast enough. But now that I'm on my laptop,
yeah,
I see everything as soon as you put it up.
Yeah, Islam. This technology can't keep up with the Moors, so it's gonna have to step it up, step that game up. This technology is gonna have to step the game up. Yes, Islam. I'm glad that you can see it now, Empress Shasha. Empress Cynthia.
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
Trying to get on. I just wanted to make a remark about your opening statement in our meditation about there's plenty. Curry Mayo Ahau just put out a video that 80% of the plant food came from here, that went out all over the world. And those seeds and things are still here. So you're absolutely right. There is plenty.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is just programming.
Yep. We're going to wonder why we even went to a grocery store in a minute. That kind of grocery store, commercial grocery store. Because grocery stores are fine. They're fine, but, it's time for living foods to be there. And we have so many living foods here on the land that, and farming is great. We need our Moorish farmers. For those who are not near the farms, things are going to be growing wild that we can just consume. I do it around here all the time. Things just growing and growing and growing. I almost don't have to farm here because there are, depending on the season, it just depends on what's out there. And if it's in season, grab it. If it's not in season, it'll be in season when that season comes. We have, and all of us should start, I would encourage you to go out into the territory and just find things that are growing out so that you can see the abundance and so that you can see, because we will not be lacking anything. In fact, it's going to be far more abundant than we could ever imagine, than we ever thought. And here's the thing, the foods are going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. So don't think that there's anything crazy going on if you see a zucchini the size of a watermelon. Because that stuff, I'm actually surprised that they were able to hide that from us this long because it's so abundant. But they had a job to do. Their subjects, they had a job to do. And we appreciate the job that they did in keeping all of that, keeping us back from it so that we would know how to manage and govern it because it's so much. So for those who are thinking about things like mortgages and things like that, I'll say this briefly about that. Ask yourself, do the ones who were previously pretending to occupy governor's mansions, did they have a mortgage on a governor's mansion? No. No, they did not. That is your future. It's here already. It's here already. Was there ever a mortgage on a presidential palace?
Islam, no.
No. Was there ever a mortgage on Yale University and Georgetown University and UCLA and all of the older universities? Was there Harvard, Princeton and all of that? Those were our domiciles, Morris. Those were our domiciles. And there's no mortgage on them. Now, does everybody need a domicile the size of Yale University? No. But just know that now that we have accepted our ascension as governors and presidents and all of that, because we're all of that, mayors and all of that, that is our life now. That's our life now. And if you want to know where to look in the law for that, you can even look, and this is just one of many, many, many places, including the Constitution, where you can look and see that. The treaty talks about domiciling of the consuls. The Constitution talks about offices of trust and offices of profit and appropriations. The Constitution talks about appropriations and all of that. But also, if you wanted to look in the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and where diplomats and consuls live. But again, we're on our own land. So we are actually looking at, and even the domiciles that you're currently in can be placed on the public record as this is a governor's domicile. I did show you all where I found in the records, I think I showed this already, where I found in the records where there were over 2 million corporates here at State of Washington registered with the Secretary of State's office, quote unquote, as governors. So that means that they probably were not even paying for a domicile that they were in, and they're all out here in the area. If we were at the United States Corporation Company, which we're not. So you have the right that government has. You have the right that government has. We must continue to do what we're doing so that that right is activated in our documentation. So if you want to look at some of those laws and rules and things, then we've elevated a lot of that to law. But you can also look on the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People as well. You know, we don't owe anyone for living on our land. And where the domiciles are concerned, we are the government, period. With regard to what was stated earlier, Empress Cynthia, Empress Rosetta put something in the chat. She said a 1640 publication of Plants and Herbs. When I was studying our history and how things got twisted, or appeared to be twisted, back in the early 1900s, if you looked up American consul, you would see foreign faces. You would also see that in their job description, they were to take plants and things from here and take them to other places. And then if there were plants at other places, they would bring them here. And the consuls from here and I'm speaking about us now. The consuls from here are the only consuls at Earth that can go someplace else and make laws over there. But that's because we're one everywhere. And fortunately, we don't have to go there because there are consuls already there making laws. So Empress Rosetta put something in the chat. You may want to grab that link. I'm going to grab it really quickly so I can look at it later.
Islam, that was part of my study. What drew me to the video was the fleur de lis, and it turns out the fleur de lis is the ear of corn.
Yeah.
And that corn was taken from the Americas and spread all over the world, and basically the hybrids lost their mind over corn and came over here to harvest it. And at first it was called a pine cone because the oldest corn was shaped like a pine cone, but actually it was corn, and they're the oldest temples that's in the Americas had corn cobs buried with some of the mummies.
Empress, I'm so glad you said that, because I just put in the chat the Angkor Wat temple at Cambodia, I believe it is. It's either Cambodia or Vietnam. But all of our temples had the fleur de lis in the architecture.
Yes, and even the Olmecs had it on their headdress as well. And there's a lot of temples over in pyramids over in Americas that have corn drawn in them, and it's from the books that was provided, the links. The story of Osiris is about sowing and reaping corn, and there's numerous Bible verses about corn in the King James Version.
Yeah.
And corn was also called the tree of life.
Yes, Islam.
Corn has a lot of carbon in it.
Yes, it does. When it's not genetically modified, when it's done by us. And those corn, now this is the beauty also, Empress, I'm so glad you brought that up. The beauty of all that we're doing and facts like what the Empress just brought out is that the corn kernels, the original corn kernels that our ancestors planted are still in the soil here. It's just that the frequency of the earth needed to be raised in order for that to bloom naturally. So a lot of it is you're just going to walk out somewhere and, oops, there's corn. And it's the original corn. It's actually maize. M-A-I-Z-E.
Yeah, maize. Islam. Also, it was determined that, corn originated here because it doesn't self-propagate. So it had to be taken elsewhere in order for it to grow.
Yeah. Yes.
But it was cultivated over here.
Oh, yes,
first.
absolutely. That's a hint about everything that comes from here. And everything that has to do with us is that's a hint to the rest of the earth that everything started here. Everything started here. And then we took it there and we said we're going to be here too. There's no place on earth that we were not there first. I don't care how remote it is. We were there. We've already been there. Already. The most remote islands, and I've Googled that term and just kind of looked at what they presented to see what comes up, and it never fails. Every time they talk about it, they say they always allude to the fact that we were there first, that someone was there previously, and they left marks, tracks, food, plants, something there, So with that being said,
Islam.
Yes, Islam.
Okay, this is Rose Spirit Bay, Minnesota Territory. So, okay. Yes, first I want to say thank you for the abundance manifestation, because, this week has been kind of hard. Not this week, but Friday. So I did my second grocery demonstration. So I had already sent the documents to Costco. I sent it to the headquarters. I sent it to 2 locations here. I sent it several places. I sent it with Delarium. And I said for them to deliver. And so I waited, and then Spirit said to me one night as I was sleeping, go pick it up. And so I said, okay, I'll go pick it up. And so, I prayed and, meditated, and then I went. And so I got there, and I was like, I know with demonstrations, you don't always get, what you need, but what you want, like the goal and stuff. So I got there, and they treated me pretty nice. They had me go into the office. They're like, we got your paperwork, but we don't really understand all what it means in the legal terms. And, and I'm trying to see, like, are they testing me?
They are.
I was so
yes, they
nervous.
are.
Yeah. So nervous. I tried to quote the law, but like I was so nervous. And
you gotta know the law, Empress.
I know the law, but I was so nervous.
Islam.
Article 6. I wanted to say the supremacy clause, but I started with the all does contracted, and I was like, oh, that's not what I wanted to say. But anyway, so I went on. I was like, yes. He was like, we'll have to speak to our legal. He was like, representative. I was like, well, he's actually under me, And
they know that.
Yeah, and and I was like, this store is owned by the Moorish Empire. And he like called him. He was like, she's expecting us to just give her the things. And at that time, I had kind of blanked out. Like I wanted to had told them I had already prepaid with the Delarium, but they knew that. I sent it with everything, and they kept saying, well, you'll have to just wait on, do you want his contact information? He gave me the phone number. I said, oh, you can send me the email, and I kept saying, this is owned by the Moorish Empire, this Empire State of Morocco, and stuff like that. And, but they weren't, so I was like, okay. And then so I went and I went and sat in my car, and I sat in there, and I was like, you know what, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to go take for Caesar's what's Caesar's. And so I went in there. I had my list that I had sent them a list. Like I had meticulously, listed out everything that I was going to come get with the item number and everything, and how much Delarium to give to each item and everything, according to the price that they had listed. And then so I went with my list, and I took everything. And you know what? And then I was getting out the door, and there was a hybrid and a Manchurian. And you know how they take receipts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I got out the door, and the hybrid was, came towards me for the receipt, and I was like, I prepaid, and I just kept going. But the Manchurian came after me. And then went and got an administrator. I had made it to my car. I was loading up my car, and got an admin, a person doing business as an administrative manager to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so proud of herself, I'm telling you. She was really doing her job anyway. So she came out, and he's like, oh, okay, we need to see a receipt for, what you got. And I was like, I started all rise and stand.
That's a hint. Empress, the receipt, them asking for a receipt is a hint.
Yes, and so
I have given them a receipt.
So I had the list of everything that I had sent, and and I had my
let me think about that
copy of ID, and so I gave them. I gave them the list of everything that I had typed out because I had it with me, and I had crossed out the things I got, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, this is not a receipt. I had the fiduciary documents where I had accepted the appointment of president of Costco. I gave it to him, and he was, it's not a receipt. And he was like, and I kept saying, well, I've already prepaid for all of this. He's like, but yeah, if you prepaid, Costco would have sent you a receipt.
So that's a hint right there, Empress, in your demonstration that you're doing. First of all, let me applaud you on your demonstration. You're very bold. That is the way demonstrations are actually supposed to be done. We have to be ourselves. And they know that. That's why they don't just call policy enforcers and have them throw you in jail for stealing. They know this already.
He was going to call. He said he was going to call. I knew that wasn't something I was going to do, was speak to the policy enforcers. I hadn't leaned them in that city yet.
Empress, okay, that that's part of what you have to do. You know you have to do that part.
Oh, okay.
You have to lean them, but you know that because you said it.
Yeah, because I was like, well, that's not somewhere I'm gonna go because I know that I hadn't leaned them in the city. I had leaned the city.
Yeah.
And I had sent them, one of my first liens. I had leaned almost many of the cities that I had decided to lean all of the cities that I had domiciled in Minnesota. And so I had leaned that city already because I had domiciled there, but I hadn't leaned. I've only leaned the police department.
You have to do your due diligence with the demonstrations. And, I encourage more to focus on where you are and do your demonstrations there, but just focus on one place which is where you domicile. And this is what we do. We focus on this place here. And then we make sure that liens are in place, court actions are in place, notification is in place, fiduciary documents are in place, fiduciary money is in place, and all of that. And we do the demonstration, and then we say, okay, ancestors, what is it about this demonstration? If the demonstration doesn't produce the fruit that we want to see. But that's very rare that it doesn't produce the fruit that we want to see, simply because we know to go ahead and put each and every process in place first. So, and I'll say this, Empress, before you went there, sometimes the ancestors will tell you, will say to you, well, did you lean them before you go and do this demonstration? Or that, So
yeah, I just have I feel like I have over 15 liens I've been doing since June. So I'm just like,
it's a bunch more that are going to need to be done. Yeah, a bunch more.
But stuff with my apartment came up, and so I had to do that. So I've just been exhausted, So I was like, okay, I'm gonna just go do this demonstration, with what I got,
Do not be weary in well doing.
Yeah.
Because see, and I'll say this about your demonstration, because this is some things that I noticed even while you're speaking. Number one, they don't look at you like you're crazy because they know you're not.
Well, the admin manager, he definitely was like the other ones in the office. It was like they was ready for me, you know.
Yeah, because they know who we are, but they're in subject status. They actually have to give us through the as we're demonstrating. If we listen to what they say in terms of them saying, well, we need this or we need that, then the next time you do that demonstration, you will already have what's necessary. A receipt is necessary. We talked about receipts before, Empress, when we were talking about grocery demonstrations. And fiduciary money is because you gave them a fiduciary letter, fiduciary money is in order as well. But a receipt is going to be key. That's going to be key. So now, with regard to that demonstration, and the Moors in the chat applaud you as well, because that's how we get things done. That's how we get things done. Is we got to demonstrate who we are peacefully, and obviously you were peaceful. Yeah. And then and also, you know, we do the study before we do the demonstration and make sure that we have all of our quote unquote ducks in a row, you know, while we're preparing for the demonstration.
Okay.
You know, so just one moment. There's a little bit of noise coming from somewhere. We want to make sure we hear this part, because this is important. Because see, the things that we've put in place are there because we see what's coming. So we have to demonstrate who we are. But we once we do that peacefully, the demonstrations will do exactly what they're meant to do. I will say this too. They said they need a receipt. So, Empress, I would encourage you to go through their corporate and focus still on where you were. If it was Costco, because Costco's been notified, they already know that the Moors are here on the land and that they're using our stuff. But we put processes in place that we actually have to remember. Mm-hmm. So when they say something about a receipt, in your study, find out, and you're being applauded in the chat, Empress. I applaud you also.
Thank you, because I get like, you know, I know like the ancestors is all a test and it's to build us, but I'll be taking it to heart.
You should. We should. That's what we have to do. That's why we're doing all of this. I take it to heart too, Empress. That's why I've done the demonstrations that I've done, and everyone knows, I mean, I put them on the public record. I put the follow-up documents on the public record and everything. Mm-hmm. Because this is actually what we must do. We see how everything is going. It's going crazy in that previous era. Yeah, that previous era is out of here. We must be ourselves. So I will say this. They gave some hints. They said something about a receipt, Moors. Listen to this carefully. They said something about a receipt in her grocery demonstration. So we know that we should have a receipt before we even go there. So that when they say, where's your receipt? This is it. How do we do that? Let's put our minds together and determine the best way to create the receipts. Islam.
I would suggest that one way is to draft your document, which is going to be the receipt. You basically list the prices of each item prior to or doing your shopping. Shop a day prior to, and make your rough draft of the items you're going to select. And indicate the price of that item. The next day or a couple of days after, draft that onto the Moorish stationery. You red thumbprint it, and saying you are the CEO of that corporation, and you hand them that copy.
Well, and that should be
I did that.
That should be sent beforehand. Did you tell them beforehand that you're coming in at this time?
Yep. They had almost every single document, including a thorough Moorish letterhead with a purchase order that had Costco, had the date and time, and they had every single item and the order number listed with the item number listed with every item and the dolarium amount for every item, which was based on the price.
Okay.
It was just rounded up into a whole number.
So let's look up the word receipt and see what that word means. I'm looking it up right now in the dictionary so we can see exactly what that word means, and then we will craft something. Moors who are doing those demonstrations craft something that, by definition, is exactly a receipt. I'm gonna also let me pull it up in Black's Law, because Empress, that's a great demonstration. And listen, all Moors need to be taking demonstrations to heart, just like she does. Okay, they need to be, because we must properly demonstrate peacefully the things that have to do with our vast estate. We must. That is not even something where those demonstrate. And Empress, you're not by yourself. We take our demonstrations to heart and we do them.
Yeah.
We do them. Islam.
So, like with your phone demonstration, we have to do an invoice, and the invoice is our receipt, because we put what it costs and how much it is. We paid with the dolarium, and we stamp paid. So when you go you get all the things you got on your paper that you was going to purchase. That's what you give to them, so they can keep it for their records, and you keep your record. That's what I would do. Islam.
Okay. Now, I will say this about that too, because this is something that the ancestors have been putting in my purview, and I know we have to do it because of the way, even in this territory, the way that the grocery stores are setting things up. They know we're coming, and they're moving things around and all of that. Let's look at the word receipt, and then I'll continue what I'm speaking about. Let me see. Let me make sure that you can see it on the screen. Receipt. Receipt is, and can you all see this on the screen? Black's Law Dictionary. This is 4th edition.
Yes.
Okay. So it says receipt. Written acknowledgement of the receipt of money or a thing of value without containing any affirmative obligation upon either party to it. A mere admission of a fact in writing. It says, and then you may want to look up this right here as to what a receipt, this case law here. It says, and being a mere acknowledgement of payment is subject to parole, explanation, or contradiction. And then look up those. And then it says here, a receipt is the act of receiving, also the fact of receiving or being received. That which is received, that which comes in distinction from what is expended, paid out, sent away, and the like. Okay, State versus Texas Company, and then there's some, it says here, in old practice, admission of a party to defend a suit as of a wife on default of the husband in certain cases. And I don't really know what that is about there, but that bears looking into, because it's talking about old practice. Defend a suit as of a wife on default. A wife on default of the husband in certain cases.
Is that
and
when
then,
the wife comes with a dowry?
Yes. And then receipt-or, a name given in some of the states to a person who receives from the sheriff goods which the latter has seized under process of garnishment on giving to the sheriff a bond Conditions to have the party forthcoming when demanded or when execution issues. This is important. To a person who receives from the sheriff goods which the latter has seized. Oh boy, that whole seizure piece that's essentially what you did, Empress. Really, was seize the goods, but you have to have a receipt in order to seize it. And a receipt to me is just like anything else. It's a court action. That is what I see as a receipt. Is a court action stating that they're bankrupt and that you are seizing goods. But see, the thing that the ancestors told me is that for us, we have to seize the whole store, not just one set of groceries. We would have to seize the whole thing. And you actually just have, and one of us can do that. I mean, I've done it here where I seized the whole building and they had to get out of the building, but now I have to do the issuing and the tributing of that building to our state, to our nation. So the building is empty. They got out. Do you have title to the store? That's another something. You know, things like that, because those are all part of the processes that we have put in place for in preparation to seize. Seize and season is the same thing, and seizing is done on paper. It's done on paper so that by the time you manifest at wherever you're going, there won't be any no issues and no nothing going on, because you will have seized it properly on paper. And again, they keep pointing to the paper. They're not saying that you're a thief. They're not saying any of that. They're saying they pointed to the paper and said, we need a receipt. And had you had a receipt, then, and they're not the only ones that print receipts. In fact, their receipts are subject to our receipts. Receipts, and we've stated this before too. A cashier at a cash register is acting as a judge. All bankers are judges, and all judges are bankers. They're acting as a judge. Now, what I'm seeing in my spirit is that when we go to these places with the right documentation, like what we've been stating, line upon line, because we have to rebut everything that they said and did, line upon line, precept upon precept, and I already know we have to do this. We will be able to go into any of those places and ring, and there will be one register set aside just for us to ring up our own things and print out our own receipt using, and we talked about that too, using whatever method of payment we use, whether it be fiduciary money, whether it be a lien that we're using, and then everything is put in under AA 222141A1 Truth, or whether it be Delarium or any other form of payment that we use. We have to flip that system to our use. And I'm pretty sure that it's through that we won't be going through their cashiers to do that. We'll be doing it ourselves, just like we do when we ring up everything ourselves. You know, we talked about that previously in one of our previous calls about us ringing up our own things. Now, had you gone to a register, and again, Empress, the documentation has to be in place before we do this, because I'm actually going to do this same demonstration at a bank. I would actually have to go and deposit my own into the system, into the computer, deposit my own fiduciary money or Delarium into that computer. But first, I have to claim properly the building. The persons in there got to be out. or side by side, because the financial systems generally run parallel for 1 year, and then after that they're out of here, and that's why they're starting to tap dance a lot. And that's why I say you're gonna have to turn a lot of that stuff that they're saying off.
So you're saying the other documentation besides the lien on the policy officers would be the title, because they have the lien on the building is done already, and the court action and everything.
Okay.
I never did the title. I thought that was the domiciles, but I think I did send them a title to all land, or they do have the public record link, which has the title to all land too.
Islam.
Beautiful.
May I make a suggestion? I don't know if this would be accurate, but could we write a contract stating that we are the new landlords of the property that they are currently leasing? No?
We don't contract with them because they don't even have a right to be there unless we say be there.
Okay, so, yeah, I get that, because you said that you had taken control over the previous building and they had to vacate. I don't think she wants to have Costco's leave. I think she just wants to have it so that she can, still do the groceries and just have a lawful exchange of, tender. So how would that be, done without having them to leave?
They have to leave at some point. At some point they have to leave, but even in the interim, the only reason that they operate anything is for commercial reasons. We're not commercial under them. We're not. So when I did what I did with the building, and you all see there's a video out there where I showed each one of the documents, the title and all of that. And then I demonstrated it, and guess what? I did a POW demonstration behind that. But it was okay, because once I got out, they were out of the building because I took my stand. So there should be a register, and at every business there should be at least one place where the Moors can go and ring up their own things and do their own banking. There should be at least one register where we can do all of that ourselves. And we just have to do the proper documentation and put it in place. And it is not a contract with them. Because what's happening is we're in the transition period. And the transition period is us being ourselves and not contracting with them, because that's been the problem in the first place, is the contracts with them. So we don't contract with them. They're just going to be there ringing up the occupiers, the previous occupiers. They were just there to ring them up, not us. We ring ourselves up because we have our own financial system. And more, that might seem like a tall order, but it's really not. We should be able to go into any place and ring up ourselves. And in most grocery stores, you can ring up yourself. Even at Costco, I've done it myself, where I rung up myself at Costco. And because I didn't have on a mask, and I told y'all about this when it happened, this was during when they were having COVID. We weren't having COVID, so I wasn't going to wear a mask. But I rang my own things up, and the two gigantic guys came, they started putting on gloves like they was about to manhandle me. I rung my stuff up and I walked out. I rung it up and swiped my sovereign bank account, swiped it and went on out. They couldn't do it. They couldn't touch me because I didn't touch them. I didn't speak to them. I just rung my stuff up. I wasn't going to wear a mask. So we're getting to the point now where we will be ringing up our own things, and I know it seems like a tall order, but it's not. It's not. All it takes is the right documentation. And them not hardly having people on registers when you go into the grocery stores and stuff is in preparation for that. There's not a single one on this call who can say, I went to the grocery store and there was people all on all the registers and everything was full and people's ringing. That's not happening. They're preparing to make it so that we take at least one register and ring ourselves up. We have to introduce our money system into this. And I saw some photos of when they first started doing that before they had their commercial grocery stores. But what's happening, Empresses and Sons, is that they are a retail part. Just like at the post office, we don't go to them, to their counter, unless something has happened where our deposit box might be locked or whatever. And even then, I don't even speak to them. I just put it on the counter, and they take it, and it goes where it's going. That's an example of how we have where we're moving to with all of this. Is we don't need to use them as the judge in that court action, because even getting groceries is a court action. They're registering. It's a register. That's why they call it a cash register. They're registering things there. Now, am I saying don't use cashiers right now? For more who we're in transition, you can't tell sovereigns what to do. But it's best that we ring up our own things in preparation for ringing up our own things, because we're already doing this. We're already ringing up our own things. Now we just have to have our own money when we do it. And that way we'll have a receipt. So we're going to have to demonstrate fiduciary money. And that would be my encouragement, because we've spoken about for the difference between fiduciary money and delarium. So again, we're splitting the hairs and fine-tuning our demonstrations. So Empress, you used delarium, but with fiduciary money, you could have rung up your own things and put the fiduciary money in, and you would have had a receipt. So that's what we're preparing for.
The printer that I still trying to figure out. I know that the ancestors had told me I need to lean the treasury, so I'm going to do that. But yeah, I'm still figuring that out. But delarium, I like it because it comes in big quantities. Like fiduciary money, we're in 50s, but still it would work for the grocery demonstration. And then it also it's convertible. Like we created it where we have the documentation where it says $1 equals $1 goldback USD. You know what I mean? So I'm like, that should still be acceptable because we have the conversion table right now, and I'm sure they've dealt with conversions.
It's
before.
not only because they're not giving gold-backed products. Our sea salt is a gold-backed product because we produce it and it's natural. It comes from the land. But the things at Costco are not natural, so you're not getting substance for substance. Okay. You're not getting substance for substance, and we have to have substance for substance. But Empress, I will say this: your demonstration was highly competent, and we have to keep going. We can't stop. We have to keep going. So the three things that from what's been stated in the chat and from what the Moors have said and from what we've heard, the three things that we are encouraging you to do with regard, and all Moors to do with regard to grocery demonstrations, is one of the things we said was for using fiduciary money. That would be a one of the things that I would do and that I'm going to be doing with my grocery demonstrations. Number two is make sure that you've leaned everything and everyone moving. And, we've been talking about the liens for a few years now. Make sure that if the ancestors put in your mind that that there's a lien that hasn't been done, just go ahead and do it. Okay, that's going to be, and they will tell you what liens need to be done. And then generally Moors will say, oh, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. We have to do those things. And generally, and sometimes we hear that after we demonstrate. And that's okay too. You heard what you needed to hear in terms of the demonstration. Policy enforcers don't even usually come when there are things like that. It's the threat that they make of them coming that generally causes the Moors to just leave or whatever. But generally they don't even come, especially if they've been lien previously also. And even if they did come, which they don't, even if they do come, you've got a court action you can do on them. And we've done that firsthand. you know. So, number one, make sure that the fiduciary money is one, because with fiduciary money, it's backed by the goods, because that's what we stated in the fiduciary letter. Remember, at the bottom of the letter, we say that that the Federal Reserve will be printing emergency currency, and the currency will be backed by the whatever assets of whoever it is that we are removing.
Mm-hmm.
So fiduciary money would have gotten you the receipt. Either way, it would have gotten you the receipt from them.
Has anyone done that yet? Used the fiduciary money at a register? Or
Has
put
anyone
it in a
used
bank?
I've given it to the bank.
Okay.
I've given it to.
And they put it in it, and where you
let
can
me wait.
see
Let me clarify my words. I am the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it to the former custodians in the office of bank, and then I put it on my bank account register. So I gave them 10,000, or I gave the former custodians previously in the office of Navy Federal 10,000 in fiduciary money with a fiduciary letter, and I didn't hear a peep from them, but I didn't expect to hear a peep from them. And I put it on my own account amount, the amount that's in my account.
Okay. Okay.
So,
yeah, thanks for all the, I think those are great pointers. That,
make sure
especially the receipt part. I knew the receipt part was like, because they kept saying it. So I'm glad that we're all thinking about it now, because it's going to manifest.
They're trying to tell us what we need. Fiduciary receipt. Okay, that means that we need to produce the receipt.
Mm-hmm.
So as many ways as we can produce whatever it says about a receipt. And let me look again in my other dictionary about what a receipt is, because this one generally has different. Empress, you just don't know how grateful I am that you brought this up. You have no idea.
Okay.
How grateful I am. Islam.
I sent you a definition on your phone of receipt from 1848 Wharton's Law Lexicon.
Ah. Ooh, Empress. They spell receipt differently. They spell it the way that we're accustomed to seeing it first, and then they spell it RECEIT instead of RECEIPT. It says an acknowledgement in writing of having received a sum of money or other valuable consideration. It is a voucher either of an obligation or debt discharged or of one incurred. Previously in 1833, all receipts for sums of, I guess that's money, and under something were charged with a stamp duty of 2 pence, but the Act exempts all receipts from the same under 51 from the duty. So it's referring to some laws there. Empress.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To me, a receipt means that they have paid us for the stuff. That's actually what I'm getting from these definitions and from what I'm feeling in my spirit, because they're actually the debtors.
Yes, it's a credit.
Okay.
That makes sense to me. We have to show them that they paid for the stuff, not us.
Okay.
That makes sense to me, because they are the debtors.
Islam Empress, did you have your previously account that you turned into sovereign on your receipt?
No, I hadn't. That was another piece. I have a Costco card, but I haven't done that part yet. So, but still, I was like, that should be fine, because I'm like, I feel like any more, whether they have a Costco account or not, should be able to go into a store and get what they need.
They should be able to, but there has to be proper accounting for it, Empress. So even if they used their sovereign security number, there has to be a way to account properly for what is received by the Moors. There has to be. And that's the only reason why we're doing these demonstrations, is we have to prove proper accounting.
Okay.
And they know it's an accounting thing. They know that this is what we're doing.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm like, it's not, I know it's the receipt and everything, but the ancestor sent me, like, right after the demonstration, I went home and I was looking at an article, and I got an article where they were saying that, where was it? That Costco had an oversupply.
Yes, they all do. They're waiting for us to figure out what you brought forth today. They're waiting for us to figure this out. And the truth of the matter is they owe us, but we have to prove it because, see, they have debits on their side. They have debt over there. We have to show that they pay.
Yeah.
Islam Empress, they give you the Delarium back?
No, they didn't. And that's another thing, because I did a demonstration with Apple, and I had sent them a termination of corporate contract, and since I had sent them that, they hadn't done anything with my iCloud account or anything. Everything was fine, and then I sent them Delarium and more paperwork to support, that I hadn't sent them, because the initial paperwork I had sent them was the termination, but then I sent them the lien, and I sent them Delarium, I sent them a screenshot of my account, and then they closed the account, So
you don't have a commercial account anymore.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm trying to figure out, well, I still want my, iCloud account, so I'm like, so what's next? Because they don't have I was like, should I lien the account? But I don't have an account number, and I had already, said the.
Yes, you do. You have an account number. The phone number is the account number.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to do a reversion of estate, which is what the Empress brought up. You have, convert that back over.
Okay.
Listen,
I know the credit thing. Let me say, I know the credit thing is possible because Adobe, when I sent them a termination of corporate contract, they had like maybe about a month. They were like billing, still sending the bill, and then after a month, they said we credited your account, and they credited my account. But then I hadn't sent them, further paperwork, and then they closed the account. And then T-Mobile.
Yeah, we must give them a receipt even when we pay utility bills, so we can get our the credit.
We have to show that they paid. We have to show that they paid. We have to show that they paid because they're the debtor.
I'm thinking like we could look at
saying
just like we did with the fiduciary letters. We could craft it just like that.
We could. We could do that. We could do that.
Yes, we have to tell them what to do with the dividend checks. I mean, the dividends that they give us, which are the bills that we receive.
We're just balancing the books. That's all these demonstrations are, is balancing the books. And we just need to know how to balance the books properly. All the debt is there. We have to start issuing the credit to ourselves. And we have to let the debtors know that, yes, this has been paid. You paid your bill to us.
So what kind of went in my mind was like we could, the same way they've been billing us, we use the same template.
Yeah.
But then we have it look like a credit with the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's brilliant, Empress, right there. That actually is brilliant.
Okay.
Islam, I put the link to the dictionary because it's a dictionary of commercial transactions.
Ooh, y'all, get this, Morris. Get that link, please. Get that link. I'm grabbing it right now.
Because T-Mobile, they kept telling me they still haven't figured, credited my account, but they keep every I sent them The first one I sent them was the mandamus that we, put together. And they were like, that was not a sufficient form of payment. They specifically said your account is not credited, even though I had sent them that my account was credited. And then I sent them Delarium. They said that was not a sufficient form of payment. Your account has not been credited. And I just laughed to myself because I'm like, I know that's not language they use with everybody.
That is not. They're trying to give you a hint.
Right.
First of all, we have to show that they paid and that it is our account. So that's they're right that it is your account. But see, we have to credit our own account by telling them that they paid. That's how our accounts are credited. Is we tell them that they paid, that the items are paid for. Okay, Empress Crystal put something in the chat. Either show that they paid or show that they're obligated. I say do both. Show that they're obligated and then show that they're paid and she said per the obligation of the U.S. Per the public law stating the obligation of the U.S. Yes, and the Constitution states that too. All debts engaged in before this Constitution. So we have to, and again, Morris, all we're doing is the accounting has to be done properly, and everything is ours. We know that. Empress, I can't thank you enough for bringing this forward. I cannot thank you because it's the everyday application of the things that we know. That's what matters. Is can we apply it in our everyday life?
Yeah. It's true, and it's helpful that we're coming up with this because I know this is stuff that, as this other more is awake, they're gonna want to know how to do this. So
they are. This is good, Empress. This is really good. Listen at our future back there. How you doing back there?
I know, yeah. He's hungry. He just woke up. He's complaining. Islam. I yield.
Islam. Thank you, Empress, for bringing that forth. So those are the kinds of things that we need to be focusing on for sure. As we shut down all that, the noise from the foreign, the ones on their way out the door. They were telling her in the demonstration what she needed. The receipt. So we need to do the study on receipts more and just get it done. And I'm sure, now that I'm thinking about it, that the receipts are us showing that they paid. And what the Empress Rose said was that we could do it the same way we do the fiduciary letter. I am 100 on board with that, because see, we can use the fiduciary letter to state that Costco has paid us for whatever amount, and then show that to them that they have paid already and that we're just here to pick up the stuff. But we have to, again, notify beforehand, and make sure that our liens and our status and all of that is in place. Because we have to prove that we're the creditor and they're the debtor. Nobility is proven, it is not assumed. Now, I will say this, the reason why the reason why she got the result that she got is, number one, she's bold enough to demonstrate. That's how we get this done. Is demonstrate. We can't be afraid to demonstrate, and then whatever the outcome is, we can say, okay, we got this far with this demonstration. How do we get to the next step in this demonstration? And then we talk about it. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what these calls are all about, is getting to the next part of the demonstration, especially where groceries are concerned.
Islam. I have a question for Empress Rose. What was the how did the demonstration end? Was she able to get the groceries out of the basket? Did she put them in a car, or were they still in the basket and they just took the groceries back, or how did it end?
Hold on a minute before you answer that. Empress Chitali.
Yeah.
The answer to that question, there's an energy associated with the question. And the energy associated with the question, and she can answer the question if she chooses to. The energy associated with that question, I'm asking, is that a fear-based question?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I just want to know. I just want to know their energy all the way through. I just want to know what their energy was like all the way through.
It's an energy-based question. That's what I was getting at, is the energy behind the question, because I can kind of sense, the energy behind the question.
Yeah.
And
so that's if she want to answer or not. I just wanted to know their demeanor the entire process.
Islam.
Yeah, so I was putting them in my car. I hadn't put very many in my car, so I had just put them back back in the cart, let them take the cart. I was like, I didn't want all the things. Now I'm not gonna lie, but I knew that that was a possibility. I know it's demonstrations, and we're gonna go aiming for success, but we're gonna learn every time. So yeah.
So that's
Rose, I'm coming to see you sometime soon.
Okay, girl, we're ready.
So bold, I love it. And yes, that's my kind of boldness right there.
Yeah, I said shit, chip off the old block.
Yes,
Thank y'all. Well, I'm happy to have y'all because it's nice. I always felt like, man, if I could come home and just be like, talk, but it's calls that help me, so I'm grateful.
And you know what? They're helping us too. We're all helping each other with this.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know what it is. What it is accounting. We're doing the accounting, and we have to know debits, how to apply the credits. We have to know how to apply the credits. That's the issue with all of this, Morris. Is we're the creditor. How do we prove that? Costco will say we're the creditor. Why? Because we're Costco. So we can produce the receipt before we even go. And we've always said in the past, our paperwork precedes us, right? It goes before us. So they're preparing for all of this. I'm telling you, they're preparing for they're already prepared for all of this. And that's another reason why a lot of the grocery stores have started that thing where people can send ahead and then just pull up and somebody will bring the groceries out to you, because they already know we got this going on like this, that the heirs are awake.
Wow.
Islam. I put the PDF in the chat. I don't see it on my phone. I see it on my computer. Does anyone else see it?
It is Islam, yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Empress, because that is more another resource that is necessary so that we know. I mean, because, see, we think we know what a receipt is until we really look and see that a receipt can go either way. It's not just somebody paying and whoever you pay give a receipt. It goes the other way, too, where the one who's been paid, which is us, we produce that.
Wow.
We produce that.
Yes. And also, I ordered the study drive from Dr. G, and it has almost 30 law dictionaries on there, so I suggest people invest in that. It's only $25.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's beautiful. And also, you can find those 20-something law books and dictionaries because they're available on the public record. Yes, they are. We did a Freedom for Information Act law. We did a Freedom for Information law about 2 or 3 years ago. We put that on the public record on one of our calls saying, release all the information, and they did. So we can get all of that. It's as simple as you can Google a lot. You can find a lot of things now that we couldn't find 3, 4, 5 years ago. Okay, so Empress, I'm going to thank you one more time for that grocery demonstration information because it's vital. It's vital.
Islam, Empress.
And your boldness. Your boldness is just to be highest honors for that.
Islam.
All of this information that we have, we must be able to apply it every day.
Right,
Islam.
And they did not treat her with a criminal intent at all. They were just like, showing her where you need a receipt. So we just pounded that out, and then everything was peaceful. The demonstration all the way through. It was good.
Beautiful. Islam. My question yet, because I'm starting my Walmart demonstration, and instead of, I've already done the Walmart demonstration, but I want to do it with fiduciary money. So basically, that's why I asked, is there a template? Did you get that on the with the 1s, 5s? Because I haven't dealt with, like I said, any fiat in God knows how long. So that's.
So I put some of it under the video. The fiduciary money video, where we first introduced the fiduciary money. Yeah.
Thank you, Islam.
We have to do these demonstrations. We have to. And once you've notified them, notify them and then stand. Make sure you lean everybody, policy enforcers, fake courts, lean everybody first. Lean grocery stores, lean everything moving. Islam, Empress.
Okay, so I think
never mind.
I think I might understand what you're saying now. This is Empress Isha L.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying that you do go ahead on and lien these people and do court action and everything on them.
You must.
And then if they are billing us, we can send them delarium to cover it and make up our own receipt that they have paid us.
You don't even need to send the delarium. You don't need to send the delarium if you're giving them a receipt stating that it's paid. They're the ones, see, through the lien will do that. That's why the lien is so important, Empress Aisha.
Okay, thank you.
The lien will show that it's been paid. But even for those who have liened or who've done the fiduciary documents, you can use fiduciary money for that if you want to use fiduciary money for it.
Okay.
But again, proper notification in place, lien in place, your status on the public record properly, and properly just means the way that we've been talking about it on these calls, which is in red first, at least those first 6 documents in red, and then in blue. And then you just notify. And a constitution on the public record is also going to be important for that territory to tell them where they are, because they're not in a corporation. They're on our land.
Okay.
So the constitution for that state, which we've talked about that on the previous call.
Right.
You take the corporate state of constitution and you put it in blue on Moorish government letterhead, and don't call it the state of, because it's not the state of. It is just the name of the land. So for us, this is not the state of Washington. This is Washington. Put those constitutions on the public record because they need to know where they are. They're at ancient Morocco. This is Washington, ancient Morocco, not Washington, United States Corporation Company. Islam, Empress. Yep.
Islam. Isn't this called transfer of goods?
You could call it that. Or you could call it a transfer for goods. But I hesitate to use the word transfer because that a transfer means that somebody else paid for it and they're giving it to you, when in reality we prepaid for everything. One of the documents that we have in the 40-something documents is one called the Universal Transfers for Minors. And that document says that, you know, the minor can't speak, but we can speak for the minor. So when you're talking about transfer, and then whenever the foreign corporates talk about transfer payments, they're talking about things like welfare payments, disability payments, VA payments, any payments that are made that is considered quote unquote passive income. Those are transfer payments. So that word is probably, we would have to do the study to call it that. But Empress, of course, we can tweak the definition of it and make it so that it says what we want it to say. Islam. There was Empress Cynthia. You were going to say something.
Islam. When you mentioned the fiduciary letter, is that different from the documents, the 6 documents that we're doing?
We have a fiduciary affidavit that we do, and then the fiduciary letter. There's a difference between the letter and the affidavit. The fiduciary affidavit that we do is one of the 6. The fiduciary letter is, and I'll put this on the screen. This one, it's these letters where where we as the fiduciaries are removing all bankrupt persons from the offices, our offices, because they're bankrupt. This is what that looks like, and this same one is also featured in the video that we did regarding Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, who was the former custodian previously in the office of Queen. Yeah, this is a fiduciary letter or memo. Yes.
All right. Excellent.
And this
also,
is
I wanted. Go ahead. No problem. I wait.
I was just going to say, in our fiduciary letters, we state who we are, and then we also say, and all Moorish, or all Moors, or all Moorish matriarchs. All Moors or all Moorish matriarchs. Okay. Islam. I yield, Empress.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And I just wanted to thank the Empress for her demonstration. She is bold, and you're right. Thanks for cracking that door open just a little further, Empress.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes.
Islam. Thank you, Empress.
Now, those Moors, those are the kind of demonstrations that we definitely need to hear about, know about, and discuss. And it's not to point out, oh, you did this wrong. No, it's to perfect the demonstration. And we give honor, high, super high honor to those who are bold enough to come on and say, I did this, but this happened, and this happened, and this didn't work, or this did work. What do we do next? How can we make this better? Islam. There was a noble who was going to speak. Islam.
On that document where it says matriarch.
We can't hear him. I want to hear him.
On this document where it says matriarch.
Yes.
I removed matriarch and put patriarch.
You can do that.
Okay.
Or you can just leave it as all Moors.
Well, I've got that on there as well.
Yeah.
Islam.
The only reason that one says all matriarchs is because we were speaking specifically to that video is the only place where you will see where it says all Moorish matriarchs, because we were speaking specifically to the subjects. And those who looked to the previous custodian as who they thought she was. We wanted them to know that there is a matriarchal energy that is here.
And after our chat in the week, what is our next step?
The next step is to begin looking at any documents that that are in the UK. The UK has a legislature.uk website where you can go and look at documents that were put out by those offices. Just start looking through those offices. And actually, those documents over at UK Territory that we studied extensively, actually, they specifically mention Moorish courts, our courts, and all of that. They were the ones holding that information, so we could not really, when we were first looking things up, we couldn't find much on anything that said Moorish courts. But over there at UK Territory in legislature.uk, they specifically, you can just search Moorish courts in their UK in the UK legislative records, and much will come up about our court.
Okay, we'll research that.
Yeah. Huh?
I will research that. I will look it up.
Oh yes, it's a. I found out a lot about our courts and what we did, and our courts really. Over there, our courts were basically kind of like behind the scenes doing everything. They were behind the parliament, telling the parliament what to do. And you'll see that in there where we would just be back there making the law like we're doing now, and things would be moving around all over the earth as we made the laws back there. It's beautiful documentation. That's where I found also, after the ancestors had given us ancient English, I started looking in those records and seeing, it looks like I wrote half of those documents in there. Because they look just like our ancient English, you know. So it was easy for us to grasp, you know, what they were saying and all of that as well. Y'all got some beautiful records over there.
I'm on it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Moorish kings are already, you know, and this is to the Moors that are listening. The Moorish kings at UK are already active and doing their governing already. So the action and the activity that you saw, the actors acting out this past weekend about a king accepting their throne, and they didn't even say throne. They just said accepting accession to the throne. Accession to the throne. That's the word, that's the terminology they used. That's just an act, and it is accession. And I won't say that, but what I will say is the word accession means to approach it. So he was approaching the throne of the Moors that are at UK, the sons, who are the real kings there. So that was all part of the study in preparation for the video that we did.
Islam, did y'all see the download that Empress Roslyn just put in the chat? And because and that is in conjunction with the fact that we are always operating in trust, for trust by trust, you know, and then when you get your trust seal and you add that along with your federal Moorish government seal, it's unstoppable. And so, and then I started reading the link that was put up in the chat about the trust receipts and such, and how trust receipts work. And it says a trust receipt is a financial document attended to by a bank and business that has received delivery of goods but cannot pay for the purchase until after the inventory is sold. In most cases, the company's cash flow and working capital may be tied up in projects and businesses operations. So it says the key takeaway: a trust receipt is a notice of release of merchandise to a buyer from a bank. See, keyword bank. But the bank retains title of these goods. And then it says typically companies involved in these arrangements are equipment dealers, automotive dealers, or companies involved in expensive durable goods. The bank retains the ownership of the merchandise, but the buyer is allowed to hold the merchandise in trust for the bank for the manufacturing or sales purposes. This arrangement often falls under a letter of credit financing. The trust receipt serves as a promissory note to the bank that the loan amount will be repaid upon the sale of goods. And that was just the takeaways of what a trust receipt is about. Islam Empress, I can't hear you.
Did she get booted off?
No, she's here. No, I can't hear you now. No. Still no.
Still no sound.
Say something now? No, nothing. We see you moving your lips, but nothing.
Something muted you some kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if you got your old computer back up or the new one, because it looks to me like what's going on is your CPU is overworking. It's working too hard, so it cuts out parts of the, you can't do everything you want to do.
Still no.
No, we can't hear you.
We can see your lips, but we can't hear you. Hear word.
Yeah.
Sorry, Empress. No. Oh, Jesus left. She'll be back. This happens from time to time when we're on to good things.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. And to you, Islam.
Okay. So this is what I am with regard. Thank you, Empress Angel, for reading what Empress Empress Shatali put in the chat about the trust receipt. So now, you know what that sounds like to me? Is that we should be presenting trust receipts. And Empress Angel, or Empress Chatali, do you have that pulled up, what Empress Angel just read?
Oh, I have it. Yeah, I have it pulled up. And so, yeah.
So there was a part of it that says something about, it says something about read it one more time, Empress Angel.
A trust receipt is a notice of the release of merchandise to a buyer from the bank, but the bank retains title to these goods. And then it says, typically companies involved in these arrangements are equip dealers, automotive dealers, or companies involved in expensive durable goods. Then it says the bank retains the owner of the merchandise, but the buyer is allowed to hold the merchandise in trust for the bank.
Hold it. Start right there. So we know that they are the buyer because they've been holding that stuff for us. Everything they've been holding for us. So now we go from that point and determine what to do next.
Yeah, because it says the bank remains the owner of the merchandise, because we're the bank, it's our merchandise. It says, but the buyer is allowed to hold the merchandise in trust for the bank. So that's where the stores come in, because at that point they're holding, right?
And it said something about a letter of credit, didn't it?
Oh yeah, the next one. This arrangement often falls under a letter of credit financing. The trust receipt serves as a promissory note to the bank that the loan amount will be repaid upon the sale of the goods.
Morris, what does that sound like? Because there was one of the nobles was about to say something.
Yes, this is Zing. It sounds like a consignment to a certain degree, whereby you're taking possession. Yes, but at the same time, you're not taking title, so it has that twist of consignment built in.
Yes, that's Islam. That's why I'm thinking that's not something that we want to be trying to dive into, because it's like they don't understand what we understand as far as us being the bank. Okay.
Okay, so
right. We're going by their laws. So what's going to happen is they're going to flip this and say, okay, I understand. I'm saying they think we're going by their laws, right?
You know I'm gonna eat that up, Justice Raymond. You already know I'm gonna eat it up, don't you?
All the expression on your face. But the point I'm trying to make is we're going to. They're thinking that they're following these laws on the trust banking trust. And they're thinking that if she's going by
how do you know what they're thinking though? See, that's the problem I have with what you're saying is you trying to get in their minds and they don't think. All they do is what we tell them.
That part.
Okay. Well.
Islam.
Having said that, then maybe. But I'm kind of skeptical on that one. But I have to, I guess, read more into it.
See, because it says.
Let me just address Justice Raymond. I hear what you're saying, Justice Raymond. I hear what you're saying. You're saying that they're not going to know that we're the bank because that bank part is the part that's. But that's why we have to give and that's what I was saying to Empress Rose about the demonstration is they will know we're the bank when we lean the corporate covering off of them.
True.
You know, and I'm glad you brought that up, Justice Raymond, because that's important. Because if you're thinking it, then others are probably going to be thinking the same thing. So, yeah, that's why the documentation that we have given ourselves the bridge over troubled waters, y'all. We got it already.
Yeah, and I will say, yeah, documentation is important, but I'll say, like, when you're like on that ground level with them, they don't, like, the law there is like they don't even hear it. They just the day to day. You know what I mean? What
they do day to day.
Yeah. So it's like we can get ourselves in that like the paperwork, to translate, for ourselves into the credits, so it works for the process. I think that'll be good.
You know what, Empress? I'm glad you said that too, because we are high above the pay grade of those that we deal with when we're walking into a store. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So that's where the fiduciary letters are now. The fiduciary letter being what it is, we can then take that same letterhead and simplify it into a simple receipt and say paid.
All goods and services, merchandise paid.
Well, we actually want to do what Empress Rose did, because see, this is what made her demonstration so competent, is that she knew before she got there what she was going to get.
Right.
And she sent ahead of time, and she had everything totaled up. And that's how we determine that we're not taxed, is we don't put the tax on the receipt.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the answers to that demonstration right here, right now.
Yes, sounds like we do.
Well, it is here. It's apparent.
Yes.
And, because we operate in trust, because we are trust, So because like Empress Light mentioned that when she did the demonstration video of, the quote-unquote queen who transitioned, and stating that we, as the Moabitesses, we have taken the place of the matriarch energy, and stated that we have to have express trust and such. So, because we have to operate, and express means you leaving no room for ambiguity, right? So once you have no room for ambiguity, you operate in trust, and you have to express these things on paper, because it is written. So it is written in trust, express trust, and you come from, the federal Moorish Moroccan government in tandem with your express trust, and then your right red thumbprint. Those are the three seals right there. You have there's no space for wiggle room, because you have your three. It's complete, right? You have your express trust seal, you have your federal government seal, and your thumbprint. And you put that all in your paperwork, and you hand it to them and say, this is my receipt, because they're looking for a receipt. And when you come from a trust, there's no wiggle room when you come from a trust, because all they understand is trust law. Because if you understand the corporate scheme that was operation, they have trust, because you have a board of trustees, you had a CEO, you had all of these things, and that was a form of a trust. And that's how they've been operating. So they understand that. So when you come and say, you're now CEO from the express trust of a living trust, and your corporate has been removed because I leaned it, they have to understand that.
So back to what Justice Raymond was saying, and to pick, just to camelback off of what you're saying, Empress, when you come in with a trust receipt, they're going to know you're the bank still, because of what you call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the language. What type of receipt is it? What type of money is it? It's fiduciary money. What type of receipt is it? It's a trust receipt. And then the documents that you send beforehand, and one of the 6 documents is a proclamation of trust.
Right.
Yep.
That makes sense. Since the corporate United States corporation has been removed, and that is a trust. It was, this foundation was based on trust. So basically, we removed that. We placed ourselves, or put ourselves in that spot right now. So basically, anything we do, right, is going to be in our trust.
Yes, our trust. It can't be in theirs, because theirs is a debtor trust. We must balance the books. Now, Empress Shasha put liquidation in the chat. Yes, that is actually what liquidation looks like, is when the bank comes to get their stuff.
It says the bank remains the owner of the merchandise, but the buyer is allowed to hold the merchandise in trust for the bank for the manufacturing or sales purposes.
Yes.
Bingo, right there.
Yes.
So we're allowing them to hold on to the merchandise and get rid of it and give us our money back. That's it.
Or liquidate.
And that's liquidation.
Yeah.
Point blank period. Right there.
Yes. Yes.
So basically, you're seizing goods.
You are, yes, you're liquidating your own stuff from the holder. They were holding it, and we're just liquidating it by showing a trust receipt again, this is after all the documentation has gone forth on the public record. And then specifically, we just pick one grocery store and focus on getting all your documentation to the corporate office, and then another copy to those that are there. It's going to be above their pay grade. It's going to be above their pay grade. But, we have to still do it. And then put something simple on top of it, a simple one-page on their letterhead receipt that says these things are paid for. And then after you give the store that's there, and they're not the store, after you give the previous custodians in the office that were previously in the office of store, after you give that paperwork to the manager, the previous custodian in the office of manager, then all you will need to do is to present a receipt each time before you come. Before you get there, present a receipt for whatever it is. And that's also going to make it, we're going to have to work through this demonstration, because there could be an instance where you give them a receipt for the whole year. And then you say, I'm coming in every Friday at 2 p.m. And every Friday at 2 p.m. you come in and you total everything up and do everything, and you can, and
that's how accounts payable and accounts receivable work, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, because it will be a trust receipt works like a purchase order.
Mm-hmm.
It is a hybrid of that. Go ahead, Nobility.
Oh, so it's like double entry bookkeeping.
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes, it is. It is that. Now, Empress, when you say double entry bookkeeping, explain that to them more so that they understand what you're saying.
So I remember watching one of your videos where not only are we the debtors, but we're also the creditors as well.
We're not the debtors. We're not the debtors.
Well, in their system, we're considered debtors, and then but actually we're the creditors. And most of sleeping more stuff do not know that. So there's a offset, like a book of a transaction behind the scenes that most people don't know about because everything is already prepaid.
So yes and no. The no part is it's not their system, and that's why we have to lien that debtor that they've been saying is the debtor. We have to lien that one and put the creditor. Our natural person is the creditor.
Right.
But their corpse is a debtor because they have a corpse that looks like our natural person. It's all caps. On paper, they look the same, except, one is the only difference is who is it that's issuing the paper.
Right.
And that's why we had to make it clear that their corpse is the debtor and not our natural person.
That's why every corporation has to know that the Moors are the creditors of the land, period.
Yes. And we have to let them know that. And they will know that it's true when they see our documentation come through and it's not debtor sounding. It doesn't look like debtor documentation. You know.
Islam. At the stores, the custodians that are security are temp agents. So you lien their temp agency as well. Because when they can no longer do their job for whatever, they are dismissed. The security, undercover security come and go. And the plainclothes security come and go too. They are temps. So make sure you lien them too. And so everybody's in the loop when you walk through.
And if you happen not to know who their temp agency is, then just lien the grocery store and say all agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof. Because a temp agency is an assign of the grocery store. And that's how we do on all of our liens. We say agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivatives thereof. And then, and by the way, Morris, this trust receipt / purchase order situation goes for conveyances and stuff too. Because when we did the conveyance, when I showed you the documentation that I got from the former custodians previously in the office, it was a purchase order. Well, that same purchase order can turn right around, and I transferred the information to an affidavit of trust receipt. Same information, because it showed everything about the conveyance. We have to show that they paid us. And then the home office, Mercedes-Benz, Ola, whoever, I forget his Ola Kalinius, who was the former custodian previously in the office of CEO of Mercedes-Benz, will then issue, by way of me and my desk, because they're bankrupt, issue a receipt stating that the conveyance, it's a trust receipt purchase, it's a trust receipt that mirrors the purchase order. So for those getting conveyances, all you need is a purchase order. And then you take the purchase order to your domicile and create a trust receipt from it. So transfer all of the information over onto Morse government letterhead. I mean, no, not Morse government letterhead. The letterhead of the president of the company. And then you say this is a trust receipt, and it doesn't have to be wordy. It can just say trust receipt and have all that information on it and be zeroed out as prepaid at the bottom of it, with the signature of the former custodian previously in the office of CEO.
Islam, message received. I received that one. And domiciles also. Everything.
Yes. With domiciles, a letter of credit was what they were using in order to even have people access anything. And so if there is a letter of credit, or you can create your own letter of credit and then do a trust receipt on that. Islam, Empress.
Empress, I'm sure. Are you aware of the motu proprio that the Pope gave Obama when he was?
I am.
We could use a lot of information off of that too.
Empress, yes, and more yes. If that is the information that you want to use in your documentation that you present to the corporate office, then yes. When that must be done before you present a receipt, a trust receipt, to the gatekeepers. Because see, this is where our sovereign acumen comes in at, and our sovereign intellect. We send the heavy documents to the corporate.
Right.
Heavy. That's the liens and all of that, our nationality and all of that stuff. We send all of that, and a copy of the Constitution. All of that goes to corporate office, and that is establishing our quote unquote account. Really, that's really what that's doing. And
Right.
then with the gatekeepers that are here out on the land, it's so far above their pay grade to see that kind of stuff. We can give them a copy and tell them check with the home office about these documents, but they would be most interested in a trust receipt that mimics a purchase order. Okay. So Empress, for a domicile, because I know Empress Aisha, you were doing things with your domicile. On the tax assessor website, your trust receipt can mimic what's on there.
Okay.
And your trust receipt is going to be on the letterhead of the mortgage company that you're the CEO of. And then you put it's a simple receipt. So the gatekeepers, when they see that, it will register in their minds at their pay grade that this is what this is.
Okay, but I have to do the liens first.
The liens and stuff have to be done first because they cannot see anything but corpses if you don't lien them. And we are not corpses.
Okay. Got you. All that's been going through my mind. So it's
yes. Well, Empress, some Moors, when we first introduced the lien process according to Moorish government letterhead, some Moors were thinking that it was an act of war, and it's not. It's not an act of war. Right. It's actually an act of peace. It's saying corporations that have been warring against the Moors, you're gone. And now we have loyal subjects here. And those loyal subjects at their pay grade, I mean, even at Walmart, you're not going to give them nationality documents or nothing like that. And I'm not saying anything about Walmart employees, but the greeter at the door is not going to understand all of that, especially if it's in ancient English. Okay, they're going to look at it like I have no clue what this is, but they will understand just a simple one-page receipt from the CEO. They will understand that. Okay. And you can do a running total on your trust receipt. You can do a running total on your trust receipt.
Okay, now while you're talking about a trust, could we take that substitute trust that they had attributed to us and that they've been charged, they've been getting paid off of our straw man through that certificate trust. Now, could we turn around and take that certificate trust and flip it over for our benefit? It
is flipped over when you do the following. Lien that straw that they've been using, because see, all of the paperwork with that straw on it has been coming from them. It hasn't been coming from us.
Right.
That's them using that trust, okay, for the dead. That's a dead trust. So you lien, as a nation, we've liened the entire Cesta QV trust, and we put that on the public record. So then you lien the nom de guerre and the social that they've been issuing, and then you issue your own living natural person. That's how you flip the Cesta QV trust into your favor.
Okay.
And your natural person is in all capital letters on paper. It's not you, it's a person. A person is a tool or an instrument. We're people. Right. A person is a tool. So that's how you flip the Cesta QV trust.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that in Blueprint.
That's in Blueprint, and if you look at the fiduciary document, it's done on there where we present our natural person. The fiduciary document presents our natural person. And that way we have subjects assisting as opposed to corporates warring. because we're not
okay.
at war.
There's also a book. I haven't ordered it yet, but I said I was going to order it. There's a book on the straw man. It was written by the name of, I think the man's last name is Robinson. He's the same person, I think, that wrote the affidavit book.
Mm-hmm.
That book might be beneficial to help the Moors piece together, a lot of things that we have questions about concerning the straw man.
So we're not going to deal with a straw man. We're going to deal with natural persons. That book, Empress, will be helpful in learning how to navigate with our natural person, though.
Okay.
That book is a hypothecation of the natural person book.
Right.
So it's going to definitely be helpful. It's just that we have to know more that we don't use straw men.
Okay.
The reason
we don't accept their person.
Thank you. We do not accept their person, and that's in the Biblios, Heliotech and Job, the 32nd chapter, verses 21 and 22, where we don't accept anyone's person. It's also the law in terms of let me quote just a couple of other ones.
Islam, while you're thinking about that, it's in Article 15 of the Peace and Friendship Treaty about not accepting their person. It says it without saying it, but it says it.
Yeah. And then the fact that they're bankrupt says we don't accept their person because we're not bankrupt.
Right.
So, Empress, that's valuable information. That book is going to be valuable. Anything about a straw man, you have to put it through your sovereign filter first before you can use that information, because we don't use straw men, we use natural persons, and natural persons are spelled out on our fiduciary documents that we're the fiduciary for the natural person, as opposed to someone pretending to be an authorized representative of a straw.
Okay.
Yeah. Islam.
Thank you, Islam.
Valuable information, Empress Aisha. Thank you for that. Islam, Empress.
Can you explain more about authorized representative, because a lot of people use that term?
So they just need to look up what authorized means and what representative means. If you say that you're authorized, then who authorized? That means somebody above you has the authority to authorize you. That means that that if they say you're no longer authorized, then you're not. That means somebody else is telling you what to do. And then if you're a representative, what are you representing? Because you can't represent something that's dead because you're living. So it's only when we were in our sleep that foreigners were saying they're the authorized representative of a straw, because they were the authorized representative of a straw. And every time a Moor tried that, we're not that. We're not that. And let me just say, corpses can only be authorized representatives of straw men. Because a straw man is empty. It has nothing on the inside of it. It's a shell. That's why they call it a straw man. Or they call it a straw man, or they call it a shell corporation. So whenever our subjects were acting as corpses and corporations, that's the only time they would say, oh, I'm the authorized representative of a straw. And none of that is even relative on this land. No one represents the Moors. That's why we are the fiduciary trustees for our natural person. So they just need to pull out a dictionary and look those terms up and know that no one represents the Moors and that no one authorizes the Moors. We authorize ourselves. We are the authors and the finishers of our own self and our own faith.
Islam. And is that how you know, if they claim to be, if they use those terms, claim to be the trustee, that trusteeship could be usurped? Or, you know, something can be done because...
It depends on who, see, that's what I'm saying. Whoever it is that's authoring the paperwork can usurp if you allow them to and accept their paper. That's why we had to write our own everything. We don't accept anything from them. We just look at what they did and we write it out ourselves. Empress Chris put subsection 435.923, authorized representatives. It says the agency must permit applicants and beneficiaries to designate an individual. What agency has that authority to permit the Moors to do anything? None. No agency. We don't even do permits. We permit others, but no one permits us. You know, thank you, Empress, for putting that in the chat, because that's important that we know what those words really mean. And, you know, when they said the agency must permit applicants, we're not even applicants. We do affidavits. We don't do applications. An applicant and application is a sort of like a hypothecation of affidavit. That was when they were saying we have to change the word affidavit altogether, or else the Moors will figure out that they're supposed to be writing their own stuff. And they said, okay, do something that sounds like it. Applicant. You know. Moors, let me say this too. We had another topic that we were going to talk about today, the sovereign employer, the Moorish employer, and the employment process for us employing our employees. And Empress Angel was preparing to do a presentment there with the help of Empress Shatali and the rest of us. You know, we were just going to talk about it like we're talking about this now, but is it okay, more, that we put that off until another call?
Indeed.
Empress Angel, is that okay with you?
Yes, Islam.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we made a lot of progress today.
We sure did.
Yeah. We need to keep moving this way in everyday application of what we know, and then doing it. Empress Rose, thank you.
Islam. I got to give congratulations, Islam.
Empress Rose, yes.
Yes.
We appreciate
gratitude.
Yes. And so let's keep going like this and keep demonstrating our sovereign status with good study. Bring it back to the group and to the Congress, and let's talk about it and implement. Let's do this. So with that being said, we will meet again on Thursday. And in the interim, if you have any other demonstrations, Empress Rose, or any other Moors that you have done and you want to bring it forth to see how we can fine-tune it and share that fine-tuning, let's do it. But now you see how important it is to at least get those 6 documents on the public record, because the more we dig into this, the more we see that it had to be a trust situation. We had to be the superiors in that trust situation, and that it takes us using our own economic power to get the things that we want to get on our land. You know. With that being said, Islam, Empress.
This probably should be another topic because I got a question.
Islam.
So I'm thinking, and I shouldn't be in their head, but I'm just being a devil's advocate. So when we give them the trust receipt, I'm thinking they're like, okay, so what do we do with this? How do we redeem that, or you know,
That's another good question. So you say to them, I will go to the register and bring everything up myself, and you'll have your receipt and the one that I gave you. And you just go like we normally do to the self-checkout thing. You know how we self-check out our groceries? You self-check out, and then you hand it to them and have them to zero out because they have a receipt there. That receipt says it's paid for already, so all they need to do is zero it out. And then they'll have the receipt for that receipt that they're, whatever it is that they're talking about there. Yes, Justice Henry said the truth. Empress Shatali, that's not devil's advocate. You're playing chess and thinking 4 moves ahead. Yes, I agree. I affirm that, Empress. Yes, we need that kind of energy. Empress Rose, Empress Shatali, Empress Angel, Justice Raymond, Justice Henry, bring it forth. It's Islam. Empress Sasha, Justice Musa. I'm just going to go on through the chat and just say everybody's appellations through there, up and through there. Everybody. Let's keep going. With that being said, are there any other questions, comments, wisdom? Because there's plenty of wisdom that came forth today. Any other wisdom?
Islam, Karima Bay, Virginia Territory. I just wanted to mention what I do in this territory. When I go into our buildings and I'm at the checkout and I'm speaking to one of our custodians or subjects, I introduce myself. I'm Karima Bay, Moorish American National, and I continue on with what we're doing. So it's just letting them know, and I show my nationality card, so they can get familiar with seeing the card, get familiar with seeing me, get familiar with hearing Moorish American National, and just do that. It doesn't matter if you're asking for an ink pen or whatever, just presenting myself is what I do. Islam,
especially after our documentation is on the public record and quote, and I'll just call them home offices are notified, and everyone's been notified, then that is a great strategy, Empress, to put forth, just to get people used to seeing who the government is and who the law is on the land, so that they don't feel so lost, because right now they're feeling a little bit lost. They were feeling a little bit lost, but the more we speak up and stand up, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Get the original documents on the public record, at least those 6 documents: name change, judicial proclamation, a trust proclamation, a 1-page proclamation that just states that you have an express trust on the record. You don't have to tell them what's in it. You just have to do a 1-page document stating that you have one. The 3rd document is going to be a lien on the nom de guerre and the nom de guerre war name, all capitalized war name, and the social. That can be one lien. And then the 4th document is going to be a lien on the United States Corporation Company. The 5th document is going to be a termination of all corporate contracts. And the 6th document is the fiduciary document. That's the start of all successful demonstrations, Morris. We must do them in red first and then do them in blue, so that you can get into the commerce part. So you can do grocery demonstrations and things like that. Islam.
One
With
more.
that, yes, Islam Empress, we are open. I yield the floor.
Well, should the trust receipts have inferior stamps on there? Should put the inferior court stamps on there?
It is the choice of yours to do that. It's the choice of yours to do that. I'll demonstrate it without them and then demonstrate it with them, just to see what happens. Just to see how the demonstration turns out and see what they say. And when you're demonstrating, do like Empress Rose did, all Moors, do like Empress Rose did, and listen to what they're saying, because they gave her the key. We just have to come back and say, what does that look like? Islam. With that being said, Moorish flag on both shoulders plus red fez everywhere I go on the land. Okay, that's real strong. Justice Morpheus, that's real strong right there. I'm going to forego that for now and then and just approach from a peaceful perspective, just because I know that, you know. But hey, if that's what you're doing, that's what you do, because that's what some of the Moors. Hey, we have that option because we're the heirs, right? Islam. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs, Islam.
Islam.
Thank you for your energy, Moors. Thank you.
Islam, peace and love. Grand rising. Islam.
Islam. Islam. Empress Rose, thank you so much for all of the information. It's necessary. Thank you so much.
Islam.
Supreme High Honors Empress Rose, Islam.
Islam, you're welcome.
Islam.